Alright, this is my APC AP World project for Miss Hollingsworth, and I'm going to be drawing during the whole thing. And the thing is, my audio that I'm using kind of sucks, so my voice won't be as animated as usual, so sorry about that. A is for advancements. Advancements happen all the time. You could have been a Native American, a Muslim, or a European. The Muslims were the ones who made the most notable achievements, though. They came up with a banking system, improved math, and improved irrigation systems. We just believe sometimes that the Europeans were the ones who created it because sometimes they write the history or they just claim it or they just improve on them, which gives them more. B is for Buddha. Buddha was a baby born under royalty, and one day he found himself questioning the meaning of life itself. So he set off on a journey which included things like starvation, meditation, and journeying, and came back with complete knowledge and the religion Buddhism. C is for civil service exams. Civil service exams existed in times like China, where it was basically a free fashion to the gentry. To get into the noble class, they were tested on things like Confucian literature, which was very hard to pass into. Another thing was Confucianism, which also starts with a C. Confucianism was started by a guy named Confucius who advocated things like the older you are, the more respect you get, or every person should know their place in society. D is for disease, and disease is bad because disease usually causes like death and destruction and all that stuff. Like in the 14th century, there was that infamous disease, the Black Death, which was fleas on rats, and caused a multitude of deaths in Europe. There was also the famous New World explorers who carried diseases but had immunity to them since they were around them so much, and they unintentionally used it on the natives. E is for exploration. Exploration belongs more in the post-classical period box. We have the infamous Christopher Columbus who founded America, but even though it's proven that the Vikings were the first Europeans to get there, but history doesn't care about them. And now that other Europeans catch inspiration from this, then everyone in line to get into the New World journey. But not only were they trying to get America's territory, they were also fighting over slaves, which put the slaves in a really awkward position. F is for farming or agriculture. They've been around since around after the Neolithic Revolution, since no one really wanted to keep moving over and over again. It's definitely helped raise the population numbers from the nomadic times, and since people were able to stay and not move, they would be able to create civilizations. Long after the discovery of agriculture, we've been still growing more things like potatoes and maize after the New World discovery, which helped to increase the population of Eurasia. G is for gunpowder. Gunpowder was originally created when Chinese scientists wanted to try to find the secret of everlasting life. When they discovered how it worked, they used it for firework display. But when it was discovered they could use it for weapons, they started using it in a very efficient way. It was then spread by people like the Mongols, which caused changes to be made to it and then helped with conquest, like in the New World. H is for humanism. Humanism was started when people started getting tired of the Bible being in their faces all the time. And after people started conversing with themselves about it, then they started using their skills for humanity like science and the arts. Then humanism also helped to inspire artists like Michelangelo or big events like the scientific revolution. I is for the Iron Age. The Iron Age started after people were getting really tired of seeing the same old bronze things and found iron. They would use iron in irrigation, weaponry, and farming, which also helped population growth. J is for junk boats. Junk boats were created during the Han Dynasty that were innovated from the dhows. They had many factors that stood out from other ships, and they were at least 4 times bigger than the usual Western European ships, which made them more efficient. K is for kinship. The dictionary definition of kinship means family relation, but in the nomadic times it was used in a different fashion. Kinship groups always had each other's backs and protected themselves against anything, and were strictly only in the family. L is for Lutheranism, or Protestantism. Started when one guy named Martin Luther, a Catholic monk, got annoyed on how the Catholic Church was running things, so he wrote 95 Theses on how things should have been done, but the church paid no regard to it and kicked him out of the church. However, some people loved how his 95 Theses were made and became Lutherans themselves. M is for the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta was a document King John was forced to sign after people got tired of his crap trying to make him the best on the show. The document put a limit on other kings so they wouldn't abuse their power like he did. Parliament was also born from it, which regulated the king so he wouldn't go crazy. Eventually, this would help to inspire America's government, which was the old democracy, which was power to the people. N is for nomads. Nomads usually worked in a fashion of a man, a woman, and an animal they would kill for food. The man would usually be the one to kill him, since the woman would be out gathering. And after most food runs out in an area, they would have to move, which happened pretty often. And women were actually equal to men at the time because of their gathering that they were needed for. So a man could disrespect a woman however he wanted, and a woman could disrespect a man however he. O is for the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was a result of the Turks being able to take over the Byzantines and capture Constantinople, which was named Istanbul. Then they started to conquer territories effectively until their leader, Suleiman the First, ended up dying and became weaker because of it, which got another European force to actually defeat them and establish another. P is for printing. Ever since the creation of a writing system, writing has been put to good use. It was utilized along with paper that the Chinese created, which sequenced to woodblock printing, where you carve a wooden block and press it onto a piece of paper to copy it. Because of this, books were created but were very rare. But until the 15th century, Johannes Gutenberg decided to bring in a movable type printing press for more efficient copying. It looks sort of like a pinball machine, but now anyone could get their hands on it. Q is for Qin Shi Huangdi. Qin Shi Huangdi was the emperor of the Qin dynasty after the Zhou dynasty ended and China fell into a state of chaos. He noticed this and brought it back to stability with his own army. When he was in power, he also innovated on more things like the size of the Chinese empire and the Great Wall being built and standardizing Chinese script. He was doing fine until he died after consuming a mercury pill that was said to give the ability to live forever, which they're still looking for after the creation of gunpowder and things like that. R is for religion. Religion was a motivator for a lot of things, like war. War, like the Crusades, fought in between Muslims, Jews, and Christians over Jerusalem because Muslims believed it was where Muhammad received his revelations. The Jews felt it was their promised land from God, and Christians wanted it because it was believed that where Jesus entered into heaven. Religion has also influenced trade with new technology and the spreading of faith, especially in Islam. It loosely based exploration, but they mostly did it for. S is for social class. Social class was more of a thing in the past, and they were classified in things like pyramids and cycles. It was set up basically like kings were first, and then knights, priests, and nobles were next. Then traders, artisans, and farmers came afterwards, and then peasants and untouchables who lived the worst. It was around until ones like John Locke who advocated equality for all. So now the classes that we do have right now is low, middle, and high class, which only classify with. T is for tribute. Tribute was a way to control a country or a dynasty. Usually, after defeating someone in battle, you were expected to pay so whoever doesn't obliterate you any further. They paid tribute in gifts, labors, and crops. And it was essentially a way to bully people, like a bully saying, "Give me your lunch money." I'm not even sure if bullies even take lunch money anymore. U is for the Umayyad dynasty. So, back after Muhammad died, he did not appoint a successor for his work. People either chose between Abu Bakr, his father in law, or Ali, his cousin and son in law. Abu ended up winning between them, but Ali would eventually be the fourth leader until about 5 years later, after he ended up being killed, which would lead the way for the Umayyad dynasty to evolve. V is for Vikings. Vikings were the Europeans of Scandinavia who were also recorded as the invaders of the Byzantine Empire. They are also recorded as very efficient explorers, and it is proven that they were the first Europeans to discover America. W is for women. A long time ago, women and men were seen as equals, but then everything changed when agriculture came in. Women weren't needed as much, so they were shunned, and there was civilizations who either respected them or disrespected them greatly. But during the 17th and 18th century, people would start to slowly include women in society until now, where women are seen as equals and receive equal treatment. X is for King Xerxes. King Xerxes was, okay, the Persian king, but let me tell you a story about him. He was leading an army in a war between Persia and Greece, which he was winning because A, he had a bigger army, B, he effectively intimidated the other Greek states so they wouldn't fight, and C, there was a Greek trader who told Xerxes about a pass that would lead to the Athens. But the Athenian leader Themistocles knew a big army wouldn't move so fast, so if they jumped him in a narrow strait, then he could get him to jump on his army. So he got a slave to lie to Xerxes and say the Greeks were quarreling amongst themselves, which prompted him to attack in the strait, where the Athenian army was able to defeat the Persian army. Xerxes witnessed his army losing and he left. Y is for the Yuan dynasty. So after Genghis and Ogedai's time came, then was Kublai Khan. He decided he wanted China, so he went and took it over and established the Yuan dynasty, and also decided to try China's customs and influence its culture on his dynasty. Later afterwards, he was more territory hungry and went after Japan, but wasn't able to fight him, and it signaled the Yuan dynasty's weakening stature. So later on, a Buddhist monk named Zhu Zhuangzhang led a revolt and overthrew the Yuan dynasty and then established the Ming. Z is for Zhang He. So sometime in the 1405, the Emperor of China was feeling lucky and got Zhang He to explore places like Southeast Asia and the borders of Africa for goods. He was Muslim, so he could deal with anyone in his way. He then came back with lots of gifts from his expedition, like tribute and animals for a zoo. But for some reason, the bureaucrats did not like him and would not write about him in their chronicles.